Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive in 5 podcast. So I was recently talking to an organisation about doing a talk for some of their employees as part of a wellbeing week. It's something that I am doing more and more of now. If you're interested, by the way, just putting it out there, please do get in touch. It's something I'm really passionate about. I think organisations have a lot of work to do in terms of supporting their employees around health, wellbeing, fitness. And in this call with this particular organisation, I was chatting to some of their employees around the topics they wanted to cover as part of this talk I'm going to be doing. And one of the people on the call said something really interesting that I think kind of sums up what I want to talk about over the next couple of episodes. And they said, and I actually wrote this down as a quote, they said, "I think the biggest thing we're hearing from our colleagues is a lack of balance. Everything feels like it's a priority and that you need 4,000 hours in every day to do anything." This is so true. I see this all the time with the clients that I work with on a one-to-one basis. If you're a professional woman, if you're trying to juggle it all, work, health, family, relationships, enjoying your life, all of those things, balance feels pretty tough. You're doing all of the things that you need to be doing. You're working hard in your career, you're keeping up with friends and family, you're looking after your home, you're doing the grown-up stuff like ironing and cleaning and all of that stuff. You're trying to keep on top of the news. Maybe you're trying to enjoy your life as well, have a social life. And on top of all of that, you're also expected to somehow do this whole health and fitness thing, eat healthily, lose weight, go to the gym, do your steps, get early nights, eat your fruit and veg, all of that stuff. And what tends to happen is every time you try to get it all together, it feels like something slips. The pressure of trying to do it all is really overwhelming, and it feels like no matter what you do, you're never doing enough. The way that I often try and visualize this is, this morning I had to take my laundry downstairs to put it in the washing machine, and because I'm an idiot, I was like, I don't need a laundry basket, I'll just take it all in my hand. And I had this massive ball of laundry, and as I'm walking downstairs, there's socks dropping off and things falling on the floor, and suddenly I look around and the dog's picked up something and run off with it, and it's so difficult. You feel like you're constantly dropping stuff, you're trying to keep on top of everything, and there's always socks falling off. It's really frustrating. And this person I was speaking to at this organisation mentioned that she'd had conversations with colleagues where they kind of explained this exact thing, that there's something always slipping through the crack, there's always a ball that's being dropped, that you want to eat better, move more, sleep more, and still have time to be present for your family and friends. And you want to push forward in your career, you want to progress with work, that is important to you, and that's the thing that allows you to live this great life. The reality is, when you miss a workout, when you grab something quick for lunch rather than having your meal prep, when you skip self-care because there's no time, it feels like a failure, and that creates this feeling of guilt, which piles on even when you're doing your best. And as part of this talk I'm putting together for this organisation, one thing we're really talking about is this: balance isn't about doing everything perfectly. We feel like to have balance, we have to have everything nailed. It's not about that. It's not about having every part of your life neatly, meticulously organised with a routine that you stick to every single day. That version of balance doesn't exist. It's what we crave, and we would love to have it because it would make us feel like we were in control of everything. But the more you try to do that, the more you try to over-engineer and meticulously craft balance, the more exhausted you end up feeling. And trying to live like that is what leaves you feeling like you're never doing enough, because you're not giving yourself any wiggle room. If we go back to what balance actually is, I think about it like those old-fashioned sets of baking scales. My grandma used to have one that was like those sort of very traditional scales where you put the weights on one side and you put the food you're weighing on the other, and you stack it up to work out how much is on the other side. Balance is when those scales are holding each other steady. That could be sometimes much heavier, but it's when they're holding steady, not them wobbling up and down as bits go on and off, which is what we end up doing when we try and find balance. We have to make slow, incremental shifts to keep those scales in the right place. As one thing comes off, another thing comes off, to keep that balance, keep that equilibrium. The reality is, balance doesn't mean doing it all at once. It's not about getting everything right every time. It's about making those small decisions to stay aligned with your values and your priorities, even when life feels out of control. And it's about flexibility. It's about knowing when to turn things up and when to dial it back. Think of balance like gently tipping those scales. It's not about throwing all the weight on one side and hoping it stays there while it's swinging around like a seesaw in a kid's play park. It's about adjusting bit by bit, shift by shift, easy for me to say, to keep things steady. So for today, I want you to think about this. How would it feel if you stopped expecting perfection in every area of your life? What would happen if you just allowed yourself to focus on the things that matter most in a way that actually fits into your real life? I want you to take a moment today to reflect on that. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to juggle every single ball perfectly? If you stopped trying to be perfect and instead focused on moving the most important ones forward? What if instead of feeling like you're constantly behind, you allowed yourself the freedom to embrace life as it is, messy, unpredictable, but still within that mess, moving in the direction that you want it to? Balance, and I'm going to say this again for maybe the 5th time this episode, it doesn't mean doing it all at once, or perfectly, or without mistakes. It's about figuring out what is right for you in this season of your life, in this day, this hour, this moment, and making small shifts to get there. The big changes, the real weight loss that you actually sustain, the real confidence where you wake up and you feel great in your clothes, where you go on holiday without stress, those things come when you stop aiming for perfection and start embracing progress over that perfection. So ask yourself today, what can you do today? What's one thing that you can let go of in order to feel more aligned with your true priorities? Because it's in those little shifts that real changes happen. In tomorrow's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I tried to find balance, what I thought balance would look like, and how wrong I was. I'm going to share a little mindset shift that I had to get out of that cycle that I was caught in. And I'm going to also give you a glimpse into how you can start applying this into your own life. Until then, remember this, balance isn't about perfection. It's about just those small incremental shifts. So let's go make those today.